Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Lamed Hey Amud Beis, 3 lines from the top. The Gemara continues to discuss the big day kahuna of the Kohen Gadol, specifically the white vestments that he uses when he goes to do the avodas hapnimios. Says the Gemara, Tani Rav Huna bar Yehuda v'amri lo Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. Achar shekolsa avodas tzibur, after he performs the avodah of the tzibur that requires kapara, kohen she'osaso lo imo ksoines loivsha v'oived bo avodas yochid. His mother, if she chooses to then make a tunic, the ksoines, for her son, the Kohen Gadol, he may wear it and do the avodas yochid. Here it refers to the avodah of taking out the kaf and the machte from the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Ubilvashi imserenabel tzibur, providing that he gives it to the tzibur. It's really then considered to be belonging to the tzibur, and then he can then use it as the Kohen Gadol's vestments. Ask the Gemara Pshita. Of course, why not? Explains the Gemara, Ma'od, you might not have thought to say, Neichu shemo leimserena yofa yofa. Maybe when he would give it over to the tzibur, he wouldn't do it with a leiv sholem, wholeheartedly. Kamash malan, we're not concerned about that. Omru alav al Rabbi Yishmael ben Pabi. Now the Gemara explains a practical use of what we just said in terms of a person, a Kohen Gadol, who was made the tunic, the ksoines from his mother. She made a ksoines worth 100 mana. He indeed wore it, did the avodah, and he gave it to the tzibur from the tzibur's funds. In other words, it wasn't from the tzibur's funds, but he gave it over as if it now belonged to the tzibur for their use, and so therefore he could use it as the Kohen Gadol. Amru alav, another example, al Rebbe Elazar bar Charsum, who was fantastically wealthy, as the Gemara will soon explain. His mother had made him a ksoines, a tunic, made out of shtei rivo. Rivo is 10,000, so that's 10,000, 20,000 zuz was the value of this ksoines. Fantastic amount of money. However, his fellow kohanim did not allow him to wear it because you can see through it, because it was such a fine type of material. Asked the Yomi Masechet, was it really transparent that one can see his body through the ksoines? V'ha'amar chuton kaful shisha. We know that each thread was made with 6 threads, and therefore, how could it be transparent? Even like a thick glass, you can still see the wine inside. So too over here, because of the fine material of the ksoines, granted it had 6 threads of each, but still it was somewhat transparent. Tanu Rabban, the Gemara brings the following brayso: Ani ve'oshir ve'rosha boin ladin. They come to judgment after 120 years. They're being judged, and one of the primary judgments on a person is his limud haTorah. La'ani to the ani, the poor one, the one who is impoverished, they asked him, why weren't you oisek in Torah while you lived in Olam Hazeh? If he will say, I have an excuse, I was impoverished, and therefore I didn't have the time and the wherewithal, the yishuv hadas, to sit and learn. Omrim loy, they'll say to him, Klum ani hayisa yoiser mi Hillel. Were you more impoverished than Hillel Hazokin? Omra alav al Hillel Hazokin shebechol yom vayom haya oise umestakia betarpik. Every day he would earn a tarpik, is a half a zuz. Chetzio haya noisin l'shomer beis hamedrash v'chetzio l'parnasos soy u'leparnasos anshe beis soy. He took half of that tarpik and he gave it to the shomer beis hamedrash, they would pay a shomer Beis HaMedrash to ensure that only those who were fitting to come in could come in. Others say this, it was outside in the field, and therefore they need to then protect the Beis HaMedrash. Al Kol Panim, he gave half to the shomer, to pay for the shomer, which was required in order to enter the Beis HaMedrash. And the other half, he would mefarnes himself and his family. The Gemara tells, Pam achas loy motza ulistakev v'lo hinichu shomer Beis HaMedrash likonis. One time he did not have the ability to make that tarpek, and therefore they wouldn't allow him into the Beis HaMedrash, the shomer. What did he do? Ola v'nitla v'yoshav al pi aruba. He went up and he suspended himself next to the skylight. Kidei sheyishma divrei Elokim chayim bi shmaya va'avtalion. So you can hear from the great sages of the Gedolei Hador, shmaya va'avtalion, the divrei Elokim chayim. Omru oisoi hayoim erev Shabbos hayom. They said on that day it was erev Shabbos. V'tkufa teves haisa. It was the middle of the winter. V'yardu alav shelig min hashamayim, and it snowed upon him. Kishe'olo amud hashachar, when the dawn came, Shabbos morning, Amar loy shmai la'avtalion avtalion achi b'chol yom habayis meir v'ayom ofil. Generally, every day there's light that comes through the skylight, and the Beis HaMedrash is lit up. Today it's darkened. Shema yom hamu'unanhu. Perhaps it is a cloudy day, it's overcast, and therefore it's dark in the Beis HaMedrash. Heitzitzu einehem v'ro demus adam be'aruba. They saw, when they looked up picked up their eyes, they saw that there was a man's body that was by the skylight. Umatzu alov. They went up and they found him. Room sholosh amos shelig. There was 3 amos of shelig that he was buried underneath of. Parkuhu, they extricated him. V'herchitzuhu, and they washed him. V'sichu, and they rubbed oils on his body. V'hishivu keneged hamedura, and they put him in front of a fire. Omru, they said, Roi ze lechal alav es Shabbos. This one is fitting to them mechal upon him Shabbos. Any Jew who is in Safek Pikuach Nefesh is doiche Shabbos. So here the Mefarshim explain that over here he put himself in danger, and therefore it's not so pashut to them mechalo Shabbos for somebody who puts his life into danger. The Gemara now brings another incident. Oshir Amrim Loi, where the Oshir will come to din, and again the din is on Limud Torah. It says in the Gemara, another place in Shabbos, Daf Lamed Aleph Amid Aleph, they ask him, did you kavata itim la Torah? Amongst the other questions that are related to Torah, pilpalta bechochma, hevanta davar mitoich davar. So they're going to ask him over here, you wealthy man, why weren't you oisek in Torah while you were living in the olam hazeh? Im oimer ashir hayisi, if he says I was wealthy, v'tor hayisi b'nechosai, and I was busy with my properties, and therefore I didn't have the time and wherewithal to sit and learn. Oimrim loy, they'll say to him, Klum, Osher hayisa yosim Rabbi Elozar. Were you more wealthy than Elozar? Rabbi Elozar ben Achar Sum. He was fabulously wealthy, and yet he certainly learned Torah, as the Gemara now explains. Amra Lov al Rabbi Elozar ben Achar Sum. Sheiniach loy oviv elef ayorois biyabosho ukenegdem elef besvinos bayam. His father left him an inheritance of 1,000 cities. Opposite, corresponding to them, was 1,000 ships. Ubechol yoim bayoim noitel noed shel kemach al kseifoy umahalach meir leir medina lilmud Torah. And every day he would take a flask of flour, and he would then carry it and go from city to city, from province to province, and learn Torah. Pamachas matzu avodov One time his servants, they found him, thinking that he was one of the regular people who lived and worked in that Medina that he owned. Va'osu by Angaria, and therefore they put him into forced labor. They wanted to put him into forced labor. Amru lahem babakashmikem henichuni. He said, please leave me. He didn't want to reveal himself as then being somebody who was the owner. Ve'elech, let me go, lilmod Torah. Amru loi, they said to him, Chaye Rabbi Elazar ben Charsum, she'ein manichin oisecho. By the life, they took a shvua, as it were, in the name of the one who was in charge, who was actually him, Rabbi Elazar ben Charsum, that they weren't going to leave him until they had reason to then leave him. Indeed, he either proved that he was Rabbi Elazar ben Charsum subsequently, or he bribed them. And the Gemara explains, why didn't these servants recognize the one who was in charge, the one who was the owner of these Medinos? Because all of his days he did not go, and he didn't see them. In other words, and they didn't see him, they didn't recognize him, because he had somebody else in charge. He was oisik in Torah day and night. As wealthy as he was, he found time, and he made time, and he made Torah the top priority of his life. Rasha, they'll say to the Rasha, why, when you were living in your sojourn in Olam Hazeh, did you not be oisik in Torah? If he has an excuse that I was handsome, and I was involved, I was overcoming my Yetzer Hara, I didn't have the wherewithal, the Yeshiva Das, to sit and learn. They'll say to him, Klum Noah Hayisa mi Yosef. Were you more handsome than Yosef Hatzadik? Amru Alov al Yosef Hatzadik. They said about Yosef, Bekol Yoim Vayom Hayisa Eishes Potifar Bishtadalto Midvorim. Every day, the wife of Potifar would seduce him with words. Begodim shalov shalo shachris lo lov shalo arvis. The clothing that she wore in the morning were different clothes that she wore at night. She would change her clothing to then attract his attention. Begodim shalov shalo arvis lo lov shalo shachris. And the clothes that she wore at night, she didn't wear during the morning, during the day. Amro loi. She also said to him, Hishameli, listen to me, so that you'll then go ahead and be together with me. Amar lo lav. He responded, no. Amro lo, she said to him, Hareini chovashtecha mebeis ha'asurim. I will put you into jail. I'll imprison you. What was Yosef Hatzadik's response? Amar lo, Hashem matir asurim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who releases those who are in prison, and therefore my loyalty is to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hareini koifefes koimoscha. Behold, I will bend you down, your stature, and your koima. He says again, another pasuk, Hashem zokeif kefufim. My loyalty is to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who makes straight those who are bent down. Hareini mesamo es einecha. Behold, she says, I will blind you. And again, he responds, Hashem pokeach ivri. My loyalty is to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who makes those blind able to see. Nosnoloi elef kikare kesef lishmoy aleha. She gave him 1,000 kikare kesef to listen to her. Lishkov etzlo liyos ima, to lie down, to be together with her. V'loy rotza, and he didn't want. Lishmoy aleha, to listen to her. Lishkav etzlo be'olamazeh liyos ima de'olamabo, to lie beside her in this world, and to be with her in the next world. Nimsa comes out. The Gemara, the Brisa concludes, Hillel mechayves ha'anim, Rabbi Elazar mecharsem mechayves ha'ashrim, Yosef mechayev es harishoyim. And we have to ask the question, how could these great men mechayev simple people? If you have a person who was a simple ani, and you say, why didn't you learn Torah? So then you'll say that you're poor, you're impoverished, you weren't able to then have the time and the wherewithal to sit and learn. And we'll say that Hillel will mechayiv you. But Hillel was a great man. Hillel was the gadol of the daros. He's the gadol daros, the adam gadol ad me'oid. How can we now have Hillel hazokin mechayiv the anim? But the answer is, enochanami, we don't expect him to be Hillel hazokin. However, on his level, we see that if Hillel was able to overcome his challenges, so therefore every Ani, the challenge that he is given, has to overcome his challenges to be able to learn on his level. And therefore, if a person says, wait a second, if only I had the Yetzirah of the Goyin, the Vilna Goyin, then I could then go ahead and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we say to him, you need to know that the Goyin, the Vilna Goyin, had a Goyinisha Yetzirah. And therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu only gives a person a test that he can go ahead and overcome. If it wasn't for the Goyin, he wouldn't be able to overcome his type of Yetzirah, of the Goyinisha Yetzirah. That's not expected of a regular person. But everybody on his level is giving tests and challenges, whereby HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him the ability to overcome those challenges. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects and is darish from everybody to be oisek in Torah ba'olam hazeh.